I'm just recording how to make estates because when people ask me about it, I want to answer, but I can't be bothered to write the same thing over and over every single time. So I'm just going to show it as a generic nation. Most nations can do the exact same thing, but not everyone. There is stuff like England, for example, doesn't even have nobility. And some nations are stacked with vassals that you have to keep loyal. And in that case, you can't do the same thing. But for most nations, what you should do every single time you play is just give away all crown land. You want to go down to 0 crown land or less. And you also want monthly power, you want cheaper advisors, you want manpower, and you want this one. It makes every estate like you and have more influence, so you get stronger bonuses. So taking advisory cost from all and taking monthly power from all. Those are the two most important ones. But as you can see here, we have more than 0% crown land, which means when we sell crown land, we only get 477 ducats. And to reduce the last bit, we look through the estates for something that can give away even more. In this case, I picked the clergy because they have the least amount of privileges otherwise, so I'm just going to give that away. And now because it's exactly 0, we can't sell anymore, but we fix that by developing once. I'm picking diplomatic power because the most important thing in the early game is military power. And now because it's 0.199, I cancel for 30 ducats more. So everything is exactly as it would have been if I didn't give this, except now I'm also getting the bonuses from this and 30 more ducats. Then I develop a second time to get to 0.1 and I seize crown land back. I'm doing this because the monthly autonomy exchange would be too high otherwise. Now it's still gonna go up everywhere, but not by much. And especially when you're at war, it will go up a lot more. But what you do in the early game is just you wait for it to go to 25% and then you reduce it back down. You can do this once every 30 years, I think. So during those 30 years where you, well, first of all, you wait for it to hit 25% once, and that's when you reduce it. And then when it hits 25% a second time, well, actually, you can wait until it's more like 30% even. You revoke one of the nobility privileges to get an event that sets your crown land back all the way to 30%. So you get no malicious, but it sets minimum autonomy in your nation to 25%. But since you already waited for it to rise to 25%, it doesn't really matter. Then you can revoke that 20 years later, and you never sell a crown land again, really, until very late in the game. So the benefit of this is you click the sell crown button maybe 10 times, maybe more, maybe less, in the early game. And in this case, every click was 500 ducats. So let's say I click it 10 times from here to 1494. That's 5k gold. Actually more, because I'm gonna expand during time. Maybe later clicks will give 700. So let's just say, just from selling crown land alone, I will have gotten 6 or 7k 50 years into the game. Just my income alone, 12 per month times 12 for a year. I'm bringing up the calculator. 12 times 12, 144 per year. Then 144 times 50, 8,494. So I will literally double my, almost double my income by the year 1494. Just by knowing what to give the estates and how to sell a crown land without taking penalties. Normally it penalizes you with autonomy, but you can work around that by reducing it once it hits 25%, and then the second time it hits 25 or 30%, you accept a event that will pop up when you have an open slot in a nobility that sets minimum autonomy to 25%. An exception is for monarchies. It's nobility that gets the event, but it depends on your government. So Teutons, for example, they are a monastic order. So for them, they need to have an open slot in the clergy to get the event. For a republic, like Switzerland, they have to have an open slot in the burghers to get the same thing. Now, as a final thing, which isn't really related to how to deal with the crown land and estates, for the early game, the best button in the game is indebted to the burghers. It gives you 5 loans at 1% interest. Basically, what this does is you get a bunch of loans that really don't cost that much to pay back. The loan is for 90, and I have to pay back 94. So to pay all this back, I have to spend 24 ducats, 25, and paying back the loans on top of the loans. But until I've spent those 25 ducats, I have 450 more ducats to play around with. So for the early game, you want to do stuff that takes you to debt anyway. So because you're going to go into debt either way, well, personally I do it because I like getting big advisors early. Even if I monthly deficit of like 6, 8, 12, I still do it just because early mana is so important. And with these loans that barely cost anything to pay back, you can really afford going into the big negatives on a monthly basis without taking too much damage. In this case, I mean, I could just reduce maintenance and everything, and I wouldn't go as much negative. But even if I was at war and I would have to be forced to like have everything up, I would still take these advisors because you can afford it, even with a monthly negative, as long as you continuously sell crown land. And as a last thing, when they've expanded a bit, once you expand it a bit, the loans become bigger. And what you want to do is, whenever the loan size has significantly increased since last time you did the burger loans, you want to pay back them all and then take them again. So it's more money to play around with. So last time, 5 loans was combined 450 ducats. This time, the same thing gives me 700 ducats. And these aren't even stated. It's just based on development. So you don't have to like worry about actual income. The loan size is based on development owned, either as states or territories, as long as it's owned.